Hello, welcome back. Today we are going to go from Kansas City to Denver International. And first what we will do is to draw the flight plan using Little Nav Map, and I will show you just two methods. One is very easy. You go to the flight plan and you just put the two ECO code Kilo Mike Charlie India and Kilo Delta Echo November, and you create your flight plan like that. It's just a straight line. From there you can change the flight plan and you calculate the flight plan from Kansas City to Denver, and you have several options. First you can select the altitude, so it's a more than 450, so probably we are going westbound, so we use even flight level, and you can go as up as to flight level 380 like that. Then you can select the airways. You can select all of them or only the jet airways, and you can calculate the flight plan. And this is the flight plan calculate. You first take off to the waypoint agent, then to the Salina VOR, and that's using the airway Juliet 96. From Salina you go to ACE, and that's Juliet 24 Airways, and that airways goes to the waypoint cells. From the waypoint cells you go to Dandy and Denver, and that is using the airways Juliet 154. And here is your flight plan in summary using the three VOR: Salina, ACE and Denver, or Mile High Denver. Second method that I prefer, you do the same. You start by just selecting the two airports, Kansas City, Denver. You read the description and you create a flight plan. That again identifies straight line between the two airports. And then you look for airways in the vicinity and you can see that there is one airways suitable, and that's the Juliet 80. And you see that Juliet 80 passes via the Vortak Hill City, Hotel Lima Charlie, but then continues the Juliet 80 till, in fact, your destination practically, which is using this VOR Foxtrot Kilo Foxtrot Falcon Denver. Now the first waypoint on this airways will be your start, Kansas City MCI Mike Charlie India. So what you do, you select the first waypoint, Mike Charlie India, then the airways Juliet 80, and the final Foxtrot Quebec Foxtrot, then Denver. You read it and you create a flight plan, and it will also put the intermediate waypoints such as Golf Lima Delta, Cougar and so on. What remains to be done is just to input the flight level 38,000 feet, flight level 380, and there you have your flight plan. Now, what you miss for the moment is the departure and the arrival, and for that you need to know the weather. So let's start active sky for explain. And in active sky, what you do is to select the two airports, Kansas City and Denver. You can select your cruise altitude, flight level 380, and you just put some waypoint. So one waypoint, an intermediate waypoint, will be Hill City, Hotel Lima Charlie. You don't need to put all the waypoint, and then the other one is Goodland. That should be enough. What I like to do also is to put the first and last waypoint to have their frequency displayed. So I have the frequency for all the waypoint, and then finally Falcon Denver. And we could also put a last waypoint, Denver. It could be Den or DVV. That will depend on the runway selected for the landing. Having done that in active sky, you can double click on the departure airport and you will get the weather. So first, airport elevation 1024 feet, and the weather is 340 at 9, clear sky, 6 degrees Celsius, and altimeter 2986. Now here it says you can use runway 01 or 27. Now it looks like in this case, so with 27 you have a crosswind of 70 degrees, so it is practically 70 degrees, 9 knots, and 01 will only be 30 degrees crosswind. So with that in mind, you could either select 01 right or left. Left is longer, so 01 left is longer, or 27. Now 27 is more in the way of the flight plan, so let's assume we select 27. So you can check the departure for runway 27, and we have some departure. Some of them are for all, not really interesting. And then we have the G5, but it's only vector setting. The Lake Sierra 8, the same, or the Racer 5, same. So it's basically vector. So what I like to do in that case is select runway heading till about 3000 feet. So we can go to this NDB, Romeo November. We add it to the flight plan, and from there we have to join the Juliet 80. So if we look carefully, do we have intermediate waypoint, or is it straight to the VOR. So we could point to Ozaki, or let's use that at Ozaki to the flight plan, and then we are on the Juliet 80 till the VOR. Next waypoint Cats, slower, and then Hill City, and so on. So we have the departure set for the arrival. We can do the same. Click on Denver. So Denver is a high altitude airport, 5,434 feet. And the wind is blowing at 1508 knots. So probably runway 16 is in use. 16 left or right. 16 right is the longest. Again, we can select the arrival to runway 16 right. We have quite a few of them. Now you have to check from where we come from. So the Ansha anchor is not really suitable. We have the bus arrival. No. Credit 3 is the other way. Dandy could be suitable. French, no. Jagger is probably the same as Dandy, but from further. Kale, no. Kipper, let's have a look at all of them. But it seems that the Dan DD was the best. Yeah. Tom Zipley. And that could be a nice one, but it's probably the same. So the Dandy 8 was probably the best, so we can select that. Insert to the plan for an arrival. One 7 right, was it? 16 right. And we can also insert the ILS approach. So now we have to do some cleanup, of course, because we will not go to Falcon Denver, so we can remove that waypoint. So that is already better, but probably also in this case we will not do this ridiculous left turn. So what we go is to extend the downwind maybe further on basically heading 010. So what we could do is go to Griff's. No, it doesn't like that, so probably we'll do it manually because it is part of the arrival, so we can add waypoints in the arrival. So remember that when we reach the Denver VOR, Mile I Denver, we will proceed north till probably 20 miles and then come back on the ILS 16 right. Is it 16 right? Let's double check that. Looks like left and right, yeah. So what we could do if we were is use that heading and then do a procedure turn to come back, but certainly not turn left. We should turn right and re-intercept. So that's our full flight plan now. What we can do from here is to export the flight plan to X-Plane in X-Plane format so that we can import it into the Zibo FMC. So the directory for the flight plan is in X-Plane output, FMS plans, and you just give it a name, in this case the 2 airports code and the extension FMS. We register and that's it. We have a flight plan ready for us. So see you later in the Zibo for doing planning further. So welcome back in the Zibo, cold and dark, parked as Kansas City, and let's do the flight preparation. So first, fuel on board that we need. If we check on little nav map, the flight is nearly 500 nautical mile, 1 hour 35 minutes. I have a little spreadsheet. Can try to show. So for 500 nautical mile, we can use 7.5 tons. 7.5 tons of fuel. So go to the fuel weight and balance, payload 7.5, and I leave the remainder, so that's 7.563. The payload, usually I'll double that plus 200 kilos. So payload 15,200 kilos. So far, so good. So we have no ground. So let's also connect the GPU. And select battery on. And select some light. It seems that the battery is not on. Now it is, and we can select ground power. Let's immediately also align the iris left and right. So first on DC light and then the align light illuminates. Same for the right. On DC and align. Good. Can also put the window heat on as it is freezing cold. Well, 6 degrees, so it's not that bad. Can put some lights on the flight deck too, left and right. So local time is still 4 hours, 4 o'clock 41 minutes, Zulu time 11:41. Go to the FMC. So we are on the 737-800 model, position in it, Kansas City, Kilo Mike, Charlie, India. Last GPS position and airport position, agree. We take the left GPS and paste it into the IRS position and both agree. As far as the route is concerned, we just need the two airports, Kansas City, Denver, and then there is a field company route that we will use, and we just recall the file name Kilo Mike Charlie India hyphen Kilo Denver Delta Echo November, and we paste that as a company route and we activate, execute, and bingo, all the waypoints are in the FMC. Remove the discontinuity, and there we have it, till the landing on 16 right already. So, continue on the initialization. For the zero fuel weight, we have 58.3 tons and 7.6 tons of fuel. Reserve, we keep 3 tons. That's roughly a little less than 1 hour 45 minutes. Cost index 35, and we go all the way up to 380. So we might be close to the limit, we shall see. Average wind, we can see that on the active sky briefing page. So average wind is 257 at 45. So it's again a strong headwind. 257 at 45. Temperature, we just see 6 degrees Celsius. And one limit, transition altitude is of course 18,000, that's correct. We do a derated takeoff, and we also use an assumed air temperature of 36. So we have a maximum thrust of 91.5. Takeoff page, flaps 5. Center gravity 27.5, trim 4.75. Departure, we will use runway 27 as departure, no SID. And we will check in a minute what we need to change. We probably will not use the Mike Charlie India VOR. If we continue on the init page, we now have the V1 calculated, 139, rotate 140, V2 146, and that completes the setting on the FMC. We can put flight director on, flight director on. We'll check runway heading in a minute, but let's check also the radio page. So as far as VOR, we have Mike Charlie India on 11325. Second VOR will be Hill City 11370. Just need to correct the decimals. We put that in the active frequency of NAV2 11370, and after that it will be Goodland 11510. Set. There is also an NDB that we need to use. That's probably the RN NDB. So let's have a look at the departure in Little Nav Map. So we are in Kansas City, taking off runway 27, and we go all the way to the NDB RN, and the frequency is 416, and the heading is 275. After Romeo November, we turn left onto a heading 267 till the waypoint Ozaki. Now Ozaki is in the Airways Juliet 80, so it means we can calculate the distance from the MCI VOR towards Ozaki. And that will be MCI 270 at 29 nautical mile. So at Ozaki we continue on a 268 radial till Katz. And Katz is on a 269. So MCI 269, 66 nautical mile. After Katz we continue to slow Romeo. On a 267 course, and slow Romeo is on a 270, 130 nautical mile. So that's probably the limit for that VOR. What we can do is also check from Hill City, so we can measure the distance between Slow Air and Hill City, and in fact we have it. It's 125 nautical mile. So we have two measures for the waypoint Slow Air, one from the Mike Charlie India and a second one from Hill City Hotel Charlie Lima, 264 and 125. So after that We are going to Woodland. Still on the 270 course. And from Goodland we have a waypoint, then the 8 star, begin of the star for the arrival. So then DD is at 104 nautical mile from Goodland. 264 and the distance 104. So take all those notes in a scratch pad and we are now ready to program. So first on the radio page we need the frequency for the Romeo November NDB, and that was 416. Put that on NDB2, 416. We can select it also here, and on the navigation display NAV2, NDB2, Romeo November is identified on a 275 course. Can put now the auto brakes on eject takeoff and select flaps 5. Select TCAS on Terra, although ERA is not active. On the ground, so say advisory only. So on the MCP now what we can put is the heading 275, and initial altitude we can select 8,000 feet. Select heading mode is set. Now the weather at the departure, (340) at 11, it's a bit stronger, and altimeter 2990. So we can select 2990, and we can see that elevation there is 1030 and airport elevation is 1024, so they are in agreement. Initial speed I always select around 220 knots. Will be very quickly above V2 plus 20. Now flaps 5 was not selected, and that is because we need some hydraulics. Now they are coming. On the overhead page we have the IRS aligned. We can select yaw damper on, window heat is on, hydraulic electric pumps are on, trim air can go on. We have no APU yet, so engine bleeder and APU bleeder off. We can have the logo light on, anti-collision light on, and that's it for the moment. So that completes our flight preparation before the pushback. See you sometime later. Fuel pumps on. APU on. Low oil pressure illuminates. Start 1, 2, 3, 4. Release. EGT is rising, peaking at 800 degrees and then decreasing. Start decreasing now. Wing light can come on. We're cruising at 380.
Okay, the cabin is secured. Have a good flight.
And the Denver airport is around 5,000. We check later. APU gen lights illuminates. Power on the APU gen. Double check. We do have the frequency and the current from the APU. We can now select packs on and APU bleeder on. APU bleed pressure around 25 psi. Nearly 30. Now we can check for the taxi. So remember, we plan to take off from runway 27 and we are there. Understand, runway 27 is here, so it seems like an easy taxiway. Pushback nose left. Go down, cross the first taxiway, and on the second we turn left all the way till the holding point 27. So it's only one left turn all the way to the end. Seems easy enough, and we are ready for the pushback. Let's remove the chocks.
Ground to cockpit. Please show me where you want to go.
This seems okay.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
Nose left. Here comes the pushback truck.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
Of 2993 for the altimeter. Airport elevation is 1024, so correct.
Tow connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
Parking brakes released.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Roger that. So first, backs off. Duct pressure over 35 psi, and starting engine number 2 to ground. EGT lights and fuel flow lights illuminates, and 1% increasing, 0.4, 0.8, and over 1. Check the N2, 24% fuel run if he wants to. EGT increasing, and we have some fuel flow, and 1 is increasing. And EGT now decreasing, start valve closed. And EGT decreasing still. And 1 at 25%. Seems high. Throttle were not totally idle.
Operation complete. Go ahead and set the parking brake.
Good. Set parking brakes. And starting engine number 2.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Same process. EGT lights and fuel flow. So degree matches the outside air temperature. .3, 25% fuel run. EGT is increasing, N1 is increasing. We have some fuel flow. EGT peaking around 480 and decreasing now.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the right. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
And start valve closed, N1 stable. We have a good start on engine number 1, 2. Engine gen on, 1 and 2. Check the current. We can put pitot heat on now. Packs on. And bleeder on the engine 1 and 2. And we can remove the APU. Kill the APU. And we are ready to taxi. Okay, left and right clear. So taxi light on, and we can have the seatbelt signs on as well. So straight ahead, second on the left. Releasing parking brakes. Thrust at 30%. 25%. So for the departure, remember, we fly runway heading till the NDB Romeo November. That is identified on ADF2. After that we turn left on a 267 degrees and we intercept the MCI 270 radial. Towards Ozaki. Ozaki's MCI 270, 29 knots, 29 nautical mile. So we don't take the first taxiway, we take the second on the left. That is taxiway Charlie. Thrust idle. And left on Charlie. And we are now parallel to runway 27. With a nice sunrise in front of us. It's 6 o'clock local time. So we see some lights at the holding point for runway 27. Idle. Can put some runway turn of light on. Start ignition switches to continuous. Strobe lights can come on. Crossing runway 19 left. Clear of runway 19 left. So initially we climbed to 8,000 feet. And then our cruising flight level will be 380. Thrust idle. Arriving at the holding point runway 27 on the right. Braking a little. 10 knots, turning right. Switch on the landing lights and we're ready to go. Thrust idle. Rotate speed 140. .275 on the heading. Let's go. Thrust at 40% stable. Takeoff power set. Auto throttle on. Toga. I don't like this tendency to turn so much right.
80 knots.
On the takeoff roll. And there is no wind. The wind is coming from the right even. That's absurd.
V1, rotate.
Rotate. Look at that. 10%
Positive
pitch. Gear up. Flaps 2.
.400.
Flaps 1. Flaps up. Reduce the speed.
.1000.
Autopilot on. We had a ridiculous climb rate of 5,000 feet. That's crazy. And we are coming to the Romeo November NDB, and the needle is turning 180 degrees now as we just passed the NDB. So we turn left on heading 267. And on that heading we are intercepting the 270 radial from Mike Charlie India. Forelock. We can increase the speed to 250. And we stay on that heading for 29 miles, Mike Charlie India. So it's 9 miles, so 20 miles to the waypoint Ozaki.
.1000 to go.
Flaps up, no light, gear off. Level now at 8,000 feet. Speed 250 knots. Altimeter 29993. Don't need the NDB anymore, so let's go back to VOR. So the first VOR on this route is Hill City on 113.70. So it is tuned but no signal, so the needle stay off. So now we are tracking the MCI 270 outbound towards Hill City. So MCI VOR is 19.2 nautical mile. Times to start climbing, and we go all the way till flight level 380. On this climb we can now switch the landing lights off, taxi light off, start ignition switches to off, and seatbelt signs to auto. So passing the 10,000 feet, we can increase the speed to 285. So MCI 29 nautical miles, so that's the waypoint Ozaki.
Please continue to observe the fasten seatbelt sign until the captain has switched it off. We do recommend for your comfort and safety that you keep your seatbelt securely fastened throughout your flight. There is a call bell reading lighted fresh air vent in the panel just above your head, and we'd like to remind you that this is a strictly non-smoking flight, and also it's fitted with smoke detectors. We invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy your flight with us.
So the next waypoint will be Cats, and Cats is at 66 nautical mile from Mike Charlie India. 34 nautical mile away. So the arrival at Denver, 454 nautical mile, is at 14:21 Zulu. It's 13:17 now, so 1 hour and 5 minutes from now. Plus sometimes for the headwind of 51 knots. So let's say 14:15 is probably more accurate. Or 14:30 even. Mike Charlie India is 43 nautical miles now. Cats 22 nautical mile. After Cats we go to Slow Romeo, and that will be at 113 nautical miles from Mike Charlie India, or 125 nautical mile towards Hill City. And we pass the 18,000 feet, so set altimeter standard. Let's have a look at the cabin altitude, nicely increasing. Cabin temperature 24 degrees. Let's see if we can reduce it a little. Window heat is on, pitot heat is on, all hydraulic pumps on. No fuel in the center tank, so they remain off. climbing to flight level 380. All that is good. So arriving 62 nautical miles, so 4 miles to the CAT's waypoint. And then we turn left 1 degree, so we will follow the 269 radial. .65 nautical mile. .66. Let's take 1 degree to the left, and although it's 1 degree, it will do a huge bank intersection. Huge bank to the left. And in fact we do have the signal to Hill City. On VOR2, Hill City is 186 nautical miles away. So what we could do when this is settling is go to heading mode and switch to the Hill City VOR and go direct. Let's go heading mode. On the radio page we change to Hill City on 113. And 16130 in the standby. That's Denver Fox Quebec Foxtrot. So Hill City is identified. Change the course. To 59. Direct to Hill City. After Hill City, next VOR is Goodland, and we should be on the 270 towards Goodland. So we can see that at this altitude we do not keep the target speed. That is because the thrust is at 100%, so we can reduce the climb rate. That will help, although we should be on a max speed. And we will certainly cannot maintain 7.7 in the climb. So let's go for a 0.73. So Hill City is now 169 nautical miles. top of climb is foreseen in less than 40 miles. So fuel on board is nearly 6 tons, 5.8, and the fuel at destination Denver will be 3.7, so more than we had planned, 3 tons, so that's very good. Passing now flight level 340 for flight level 380, and further reduce the climb rate, but it is very close to the maximum. So as we pass flight level 350, 3000 feet to go, the wind is at 101 knots. Thousand feet to go. The FMC, we can check the cruise, and we are very close to the maximum. We are at the maximum, 380.
1,000 to go.
So we cannot climb higher. That's why we are a little bit struggling with the speed. So it's coming close to the yellow band of low speed. But we are nearly leveling off, so we are safe. Leveling, flight level 380. let's go for VNAV mode, and the VNAV speed is 0.78. Hill City is 139 nautical miles away. And it seems that we also have the Goodland VOR, but no DME information yet, or maybe there is no DME, but both needle eye pointing practically in the same direction. So let's pause the stream here, and we will catch up a little bit further when we be close to the descent phase. Time to resume the flight now. We are approaching Goodland VOR. It's 24.5 nautical mile. We also see the ring for the top of descent approaching some 45 nautical mile away, and we will leave Goodland on the 265 radial. So we can already change the course to 265 and re-engage Warlock. On this 265 radial we go to the waypoint Delta Alpha November Delta Delta, beginning of the star, and that's 104 nautical mile from Goodland. On NAV2 we have the Denver VOR, and its distance is 157. So we calculate a top of descent at 115 nautical mile from Denver. Using a 3-to-1 rule, so 38 times 3, that's 114, rounded to 115. So in Denver we will be landing on runway 16 right. Wind is at 1509 knots. Outside temperature -7 degrees. So probably some engine anti-ice required. And the altimeter is 3009er. Airport elevation is 5,434 feet. So let's put 5,434, so we can round up to 5450. Cabin temperature is 22 degrees, nice and warm. Goodland is 9.5 nautical mile, and you now also better see that this difference 9 miles, 6.7 miles. So FMC distance is an horizontal distance, and the VOR DME is a distance to the ground. So it's of course higher than the horizontal distance. So initially we will descend to 13,000 feet. And at Denver VOR we will take the north radial for 20 miles to come back to the ILS. And as we pass good land, you see that the DME is 5.7 and decreasing a little, but when the needle switch it's not 0. And the needle switch is now, so 5.7 was the minimum distance in this case towards the ground. So we are now on a 265 radial from good land, and we stay on that for 104 nautical mile, and we will intercept the Denver 306. So we can put 306 as the course to Denver. So in 20 mile we begin to descend. So we will plan a descent, check what's the FMC's saying. It is planning for high-speed descent of Mach 0.7 or 287 knots. But let's go for a more reasonable 0.72 Mach speed and 250 when switching between Mach and ES. On the approach page, runway 16 right is 16,000 feet long. We go for flaps 30 and the ILS is 111.9er. India Delta Quebec Quebec identification, and the heading is 173. So it's time to initiate the descent. So disengage VNAV, reduce speed to 0.72 and 13,000 feet. And down we go. Thrust idle. Outside temperature is minus 33 degrees. So when we pass, let's say flight level 250, we can switch on the engine anti-ice. On the FMC, Dundee, we could still be at flight level 320, so we could slow down the descent. 1500 feet is more than enough. So we also planned for auto brakes too, and the altimeter was 3009, so we can preset that. Five 3009 is set, preset. Now we are descending at a constant Mach, and you can see that the EIS is increasing. So when it is at 250, we can switch to EIS hold. So we're gonna change from EIS to Mach, or the reverse, from Mach to AES. Descending at 250 knots. So good land is 39.5 nautical mile. The waypoint is at 65 nautical mile. Delta Alpha November Delta Delta. So airport at 5,500 feet plus 3, so normally the first approach fix should be at 8,500 feet. Now we can check that on the FMC. See that the waypoint, well, Marin is at 8,000, between 7 and 8,000 feet. So we can also now set Denver as a standby on NAV1 114.7, and on NAV2 standby we can already put the ILS 11190, and we put the heading later 173. So on this heading we can put heading mode now. We can switch to Denver 114.7, and the course 306. And select Volok or Arm Volok. And now we can also tune the ILS 111.9er on nav1 standby, and select 173 on nav2 OBS. So that will be the runway heading. Passing now flight level 263 for 13,000 feet. At 26,000, flight level 260, we can turn on the engine anti-ice. So they have some time to warm up before reaching the cloud base. So Denver is now 77.2 nautical mile. But then of course we have the downwind base and return. So for the moment the time of arrival is 14:45, which is 25 minutes from now. So this will be indeed a long video, 2 hours. Good lord, it's probably the record. .38 nautical mile to waypoint Delta Alpha November Delta Delta. And by then we will be at 13,000 feet. We can use also some terrain. So on F2 we can already put the ILS. We don't need that Denver information. We have it on the left side. Have one. Still on the 265 radial from Goodland. and we intercept the 306 course towards Denver. Probably in 25 miles. So Denver is 59 nautical mile. The needle is still outside the 2 dots range. And still need to turn something like 20 degrees to be on the 306 course. So this is the pointer to Denver, VOR on 285, and when it is on 306 it will coincide with the magenta line. Below the 18,000 we can select the altimeter 3009er. Passing now 16,000 feet for 13,000 feet. Speed 250 knots. So the VOR needle is approaching the 290, 15 degrees to go. Before intercepting the course 306.
1,000 to go.
And we will level at 13,000 feet because there is still a long way to go. First to Denver and then north for 20 miles and then coming back. So we level off 13,000 feet and maintain the speed 250 in this case we could go faster. I don't think there is any speed restriction before. Oh. So let's increase the speed to 270. So Dover 37 nautical mile. Sorry, I said Dover, it's Denver. And indeed now the Denver needle is approaching, it's 2 dots outside. And we turn to an angle to intercept 30 degrees. So the intermediate heading is probably 276, 30 degrees intercept angle, and we see the track 276. One dot deviation and turning right. So Denver 26.5 nautical mile. Denver on the FMC we should be at 16,000 feet, so we will start after the turn from Denver. So what we will do, let's go to heading mode now to Denver, and we will take the 360 radial and do a Vorlock. So we are heading north for 20 miles. and then we will turn left on 263 degrees, then left on 203 to intercept the ILS on 173 degrees. So on the fixed page we can remove some of the stuff. This is the 3 rings around the runway. 4 miles, 10 miles and 20 miles. To Denver we don't need anymore. And the Denver VOR we don't need. So on the ND we have the runway depicted 16 right, so we'll be coming from the north. So at Denver VOR we turn right on the 360 radial for 20 miles. So we'll be on the 4 miles of the runway, so we probably can already see the airport if it's not too cloudy. I wonder if it's that area. It's not fully loaded yet. So Denver 7 miles. We should be homing soon on the needle and turn right. Then the 3.2. Oh, that was a lake. Denver is just below us. And we turn north. So we can reduce the speed to 240 and decrease the heading to 8,000 feet. And go to vertical speed mode. 800 feet per minute is probably good enough. Now we are re-intercepting the 360 radial, as of course we overshoot the radial, so we take a 30 degrees angle That's a little bit excessive, 40 degrees. And we turn left again, but probably too late. Yeah, so we'll have to go left again. Probably this time with a smaller angle. Yeah, 12 degrees is more reasonable. So Denver 10 nautical miles behind, and we go to 2025. So let's put the Denver VOR on nav2. Let's see, wait for the intercept on 352. We have a wind from the left. Oh, let's go 355, is probably good enough. Heading mode. So, VOR Denver on the left, ILS on the right. 173. And we have an ILS, but it's not a good one. India Delta X-ray uniform. And a 353 radial. So it's a reciprocal that we need. We are not far away. So we will go to Denver 25 probably, and then we turn left. We can descend a little bit faster, 1000 feet per minute, so to be at 8000 feet when we turn left, which is the base leg, on heading 263. And let's already decrease the speed to 230. Denver 21 nautical mile. Passing 9,500 feet for 8,000 feet. Denver 23 nautical miles, so 2 miles to go.
Thousand to go.
And Denver 25 mile, turning left 262. 263 and reduce 220 knots. Let's already turn to 233, as we are not very far away from the runway extended center line. So our intercept heading should be 203, and we can already go to 203. And indeed we have India Delta Kilo Kilo or Quebec Quebec or lock, and intercept the localizer. So we can reduce now the speed 180. So DME 25 nautical mile, flaps 1. So that was the big lake we were seeing before. Flaps 2. Leveling at 8,000 feet, flaps 5. DME 22.7, thrust at 65, there is no runway yet to be seen. We can arm the approach mode, and we are waiting for the glide. So let's cut the auto throttle and set the thrust manually to 61%. We are now on the localizer. 19.5 DME, 8,000 feet, waiting for the glide. DME, still no glide, and the runway is too far away to see anything. What we can do, of course, is put some landing lights on. Seatbelt sign should be on, and taxi light and logo light on. So auto brake 2 is set, altimeter 3009 is set, landing lights on, seatbelt sign on, established on the localizer 16 right, current heading 172, means a slight wind from the left. Let's put also the ILS on nav2. (173, 172), so wind is from the left indeed, but 1 degree. DME 11.4. So it looks like the runway is there. So DME 10 nautical mile, gear down. Gear down 3 green, flaps 15, and reducing the speed to 160 knots. Glide slope is alive. And we are now descending with the glide. Maintain 160 knots. And indeed, we have the light of the runway. Reduce thrust. 40%, 48%. So at 5 DME we select flaps 30 and speed 150.
2,500.
6 DME now. A little low on the speed. 5.3 nautical mile. 5 nautical mile, flaps 25 and reduced to 150. Flaps 30. Thrust at 60%, fully established, autopilot off. Continue the descent, U-bandit. A little high on the glide.
1,000.
1,000 feet checked. 2 whites, 2 red. Too much to the right. Correcting. No change in thrust for the moment. Perfect.
500. 400. 300. 200. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20.
Closing throttle. And a great landing. Reverse is on. Maybe not on the center line, but
80 knots.
this is indeed a very long runway. Thrust idle. Reverse is idle. And auto brakes off.
Thank you for flying Ryanair. Last year, over 90% of our flights arrived on time. We hope you enjoyed yours, and we look forward to welcoming you on board again soon. Ryanair. Low fares made simple.
This is probably not an exit. Let's continue a little.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are all very welcome to this airport. For your own comfort and safety, please remain seated with your seatbelt securely
And we can
fastened
exit
until
here on the
your
left.
comes to complete stop and the captain has switched off the fasten seatbelt sign. Please refrain from smoking until you have reached the designated smoking area, which is well outside the terminal building.
Flaps up.
On behalf of your crew on board today, we'd like to thank you for choosing to fly with us, and we wish you a safe onward journey.
And we always have that landing altitude. And the QNH is set, I don't understand it. And we have a good elevation. So, off the runway, landing lights off, runway turn off, lights off, strobe off, and we can start the APU. 1, 2, 3, 4, release. Taxiway Delta 5. You don't need air conditioning. That's probably the APU. Yeah. Terrain can come off. Flight director can come off. Flaps are up, no light. Turning left. And we are coming now to the stand. Yeah, Bravo November. Looks like we need to go right and then left. So we can turn left here on Bravo 5. No, it's Bravo Sierra. Oops. And thrust idle. Turning left. So stand Bravo 24. And here we go. Parking brake is set. Switch on the APU gen. 1 and 2. Double check it's correctly functioning, and engine 1 off, engine 2 off, fuel pumps off, taxi lights off, and fasten seat belts off. Let's have a quick look on the replay. So we can select ground power on and APU off. A quick replay. Let's see this great landing. Two whites, two red. Winds from the left, but small, probably 2 degrees correction. Now, ooh, and reverses spoiler, skidding a little, back in the center line. Okay, that was good. Let's see if we can exit rapidly.
20, 25, 20, 25, 20, 25, 20, 20,
and stop here. Wait a few seconds and exit replay and crash. Not even. Not even. Still good in one piece. Okay, we have ground power available Everything else is stopped. Do we have the ground power? Otherwise it was on. It's probably an error from the replay. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Denver International. Local time is 7:05. Zulu total flight time 1 hour 47 minutes. See you tomorrow.